Hey guys, how you guys doing? I'm Ronico Taylor. Thank you guys for checking out part 2 with Patrick Boberge. If you haven't checked out the first part, slash this whole thing, does not matter. Into the state, go across the country, fight a dog, I could not give a crap. You're on the Tiger and Bar podcast, boys and girls, and everything in between. And today we're just gonna be part 2, talking about Patrick's music documentary and much more. I hope you guys enjoy and check us out every Wednesday. And that's all. Later. Last time we ended off, you mentioned that your music documentary. What about this were you so excited about it? When I was looking on YouTube, you talked about basically just starting up this whole documentary on like Botan and like them, and like is that kind of like your CBGBs in a way? Because like you seem like you're pretty into it, you know?
Yeah. So the Botan, or the Botanical Gardens, used to be called the Botanical Center. It's right downtown. There's like downtown, and then you go over the river. On the north side of the river is the Botanical Gardens. And for the longest time, it was called the Botanical Center. And somewhere in the late 90s, someone realized you could rent a room there for, I think it started at $75, eventually got up to $150. I have a contract that somebody has from when they played there. And anyways, anyone can rent this room. And my bands, I was in 3 different bands that played there.
I thought you said only 2.
Well, I was in 2, and I filled in a third one for 2 months. So it's not really my band, but I played in it for a while. And it was a real formative experience for not only myself, but for a lot of people. And it's kind of a unicorn, because there's not really many places that I've heard of or been able to find where there's nobody like at the door holding you from booking a room for a concert. Like most people, you have to know a promoter, or you have to jump through some hoops. This was just sign this thing, pay the $75 or $150, and then you're good to go. And it's been, I think, 21, maybe 20 years. It's 2026 now since it stopped being an option. And there's just so many people and so many concerts that were put on there that it's kind of falling into myth. Like, oh, did you go to a Botan show? It's like, oh yeah, not only that, I played there. You know, I lugged the PA in there. I saw some fights there, you know, that type of stuff. And there's some bands that are still going or reformed that played there, and I just want to get all their thoughts and stuff on it. And there's a lot of people who didn't play there but booked shows there that I'm working with too, who happen to have filmed a bunch of the concerts. So yeah, it's I would say 4 or 5 years ago, it was just kind of like a fun thing that I brought up. And now I pitched it at work as something, and it seemed like almost too big for the short window of time you get at work, and maybe just a little too loud and rock and roll and raw. Doing it on my own, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, 100%. The way you were kind of talking about, like, the way, like, people say, like, oh, did you go to the Botan show? Like, although, like, the XPK isn't, like, this big thing, at least in, like, what, like, you know, I'm just going to use that CBG as an example. It wasn't, like, that big, but, you know, it's definitely getting bigger audiences. Like, last week, there was this band that I just happened to see because I saw some other band, and they were called Turning Jane. They were from L.A., and so, like, you can see, like, it's at least branching out to bigger and, like, I don't want to say better, but bigger and better audiences, or at least know their stuff, and, like, is this kind of that place to you? Like, it's kind of like this big place that, like, you say, like, oh wait, did you go see the XPK? You were at the XPK last night? Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean. You know?
Absolutely, sure. So there were certainly venues in the early 2000s, late 90s, or any time like XPK, where it's like, this is a stage that has a bar that you can, you know, if you persuade them, you can play a show there, or if you're a touring act, you can work with them to figure out like riders and contracts and, you know, all that.
What do you mean persuade?
Oh, so, okay, my band, I was in this band called 8 Miles Out. And when we played our very first show in a bar like XPK, there used a venue that just closed in Des Moines called Lefties, was in Drake. Rumor it's going to start back up. But when I was a kid, it was called the Safari Club. And then it changed to be calling it Harry Mary's. And then there was something between it and being Lefties. And I think before it was Safari Club, it was called Harry Mary's as well. But it was pretty much my XBK. I saw a lot of music there, like bands that I consider, especially at the time, I thought they were massive. Like Real Big Fish had a song on the radio and on TV, and The Urge, I thought they were just as big, but apparently they weren't as big a national band. But to me, they were as important to what I dug. And then there were other things I saw there a lot along the way, and other bands that were like huge landmark bands at the time that I didn't get a chance to see there, like At the Drive-In played there, and the band that I filled in for, Duck and Cover, they almost opened for Yellow Card there. The drummer and the guitar player went down. Yellow Card was there, and I guess the opening acts couldn't make it. So Parker and Keith, they approached them and said, well, my band could play. And we didn't make it in time. But that was fun to show up and watch Yellow Card. But yeah, so I'd say 25 years ago, Harry Mary's of the Safari Club were my XBK. Now, I've been to a handful of shows at XBK. It's a great space, lots of room, beautiful venue. Toby's cool as heck, the person who runs it, and real good crew over there. So I would love for that to have as long a run as Harry Mary's, Safari Club or any of that.
I know you said like you moved around pretty good when you were just a kid. Have you been in, do you remind me if you were like when did you get to Iowa? Because like were you was it Iowa like you were a child or a teenager? I guess because you say like it is or you just kind of use it as like a reference.
Yeah, so I was born in Chicago in 1982, and I moved to Iowa. Man. That's right. I'm going to be 44 in a few days. I'm cool with that. I'm going to be, let's see here. So we moved to Iowa in 1988 when I was 6 and lived there until September 99. And moved to Michigan for a year, and I came back, graduated with my friends, college, and then moved to Chicago for a year in 2006, in California for a couple of years, and then back to Iowa. Just because of the career pointed me that direction. But yeah, so my formative years were definitely in Iowa, but like my childhood was started in Chicago, and I have a real love for it. When I was in college, I drove back to Chicago way too many times to like midweek to see concerts at the Metro was always my place, the Riviera. But man, yeah, Des Moines was definitely where it all came together.
Do you, with it being like, I'm just to assume that practically 20 years you've done music, like in today's, and for anyone who hasn't got the gist, that's kind of what we talk about, your music and past and everything. Like, I don't know if you know the band Brother Trucker, but Andy Fleming and Mike Fitzpatrick were, and they're like veterans. They've been referred to as like in the music career. They like everything. They don't really hate how music turned, but I was wondering, what's like you've been doing it from over 20 years. How do you feel about music, turning in? Would you get into it again?
I don't know if I'll ever be in a band again, just because of the amount of commitment and hustle you got to do in it. But I certainly loved it when I was in it. I just got to the point where I was like ready to leave Iowa, and the band fell apart. But to me, I see positives and negatives to both times. So when I was a kid, and probably just before, if you were in a band, you had to tour a lot to like get people to know who you were. And or just move to California and try and make a run of it there, maybe New York. But if you were a band from Iowa, you might as well have been in Antarctica. You had to go on the road. Now with the internet, I remember, so I was in a band when iTunes came out, and there were websites prior to that. Let's see if I can remember a lot of them. So there was like Pure Volume, Yuma.com, MP3.com.
Is that noise going to get in the,
maybe a little bit, but I think it's far enough.
Okay, just want to make sure.
And that was like a way to get your music online so anybody can download it, but there really wasn't the engine to promote it. Now there's YouTube and Instagram and Facebook to really market a little more, but at the same time, you're up against an ocean of content, not just music, anything that grabs someone's interest. And I'm like anybody else where I can get distracted. So if I find some music I like, I might be into it for like 2 to 3 days and listen to their entire run of their music catalog, just basically guzzling it right into your ears, just nonstop, one band. And then a week later, you almost kind of forget they exist, Whereas when it was, say, 1998, 97, when I got into Real Big Fish, you had to wait 2 years between albums. And I would just listen to their albums in the car or in my Discman nonstop. And I was like, looking on the internet for any bit of information or whether touring. And I think when you live in a world of all the options, it's a giant smorgasbord of music. It's hard to just like really fall in love and make something your life. Maybe when you're a teenager, it's different. I can't speak for anybody, but my experiences but it's, I don't know if it's necessarily better back then. I think I like now being able to just take on everything all at once, and you can really follow stuff online for a lot. Like the bands that are using YouTube and Instagram and really going into that meme culture of like feeding the beast. I dig that a lot. Mm-hmm. So I think I would lean a little bit more this way, because if I were in a band and I was 19 right now, I think I'd be really having a good time feeding that beast. Mm-hmm. But if I was a 44-year-old in the 90s and you had to go out and hustle without that promotion engine, and that'd be, yeah. I think it's better to be young now in a band, because the chance of making that happen is very, very unlikely. There's no bands like there were in the 90s. There's no ones that's as huge. There was dozens, and now I don't think there's any that are in the top 40 for the last 5 years.
What about MTV? Because that was like pretty much the breakout for a lot of bands.
Sure. I mean, for a while it was, an MTV too. And you can still have music videos that get like take off and find, thread the needle. But that definitely was a thing. And there's plenty of bands that were big on MTV that didn't necessarily have big radio hits, but they're known as, just as big a band, it seems like. But maybe they didn't make as much money. I don't know. It's kind of not exactly where things I know about. But yeah, I don't regret being in a band at all in the 90s. That was awesome. And in the early 2000s. But I have no desire to start it up and go after the hustle.
Fame.
Yeah, because I'll give you for instance. So in 2016, this is the last time I joined a band. Well, okay, technically. But I was in a band for a year with this songwriter in Des Moines. And she was really talented. She was really cool. She wanted to make a run of it. But one time it was just her and I working on the music because no one else could make practice. So we're sitting down, and after a bit, she wanted to know how serious I was about it. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And then she gave the thing, like, I want to go out and I want to make a music video, record an album, go on tour, get on the radio. And maybe it was me being like a 30-something jaded guy, or, trying to build a family. And inside I just said, oh, I guess I'm not serious. And I think that's part of the reason why I'm not really interested in being in a band again, is because that level of seriousness and hustle, I don't think I have. I still love making music. I scored an entire documentary. I've done music for other people's work. I just made a short film this weekend. We were writing up the song on the way home from the kickoff, and we were coming up with the lyrics, and I was like, okay, send them, do a voice memo, send them this. They need to sing this at some point. And I sang the song. And it turned into the most spectacular thing. The musician who recorded it in New York, just absolute home run of a ridiculous song. So yeah, I still love music more than ever.
And back to your documentary, you're making like a documentary, like a podcast type thing. And if you could explain that in a minute, what exactly, how long has this been in motion? Because we talked about, you were obsessed with what used to be the Botanigal Garden, and you're just you've been contacting, not many right now, maybe one I saw, but yeah. You've been contacting people, talking about their experiences playing there. I think you said you played there, yeah. And you made some contact with people. Sure. How long has this been in motion practically? Let's just start there.
So I came up with the idea in, I want to say, late January, and I contacted a few, I'd say, pillars of the Botan era, who all said yes to, let's do this. And for the on-camera video interview, I've interviewed one so far. I've filmed with two others, and I've gotten a ton of flyers and old videos that people have filmed. I filmed concerts at the time back then, and I filmed a bunch when my band was there. And I'm also, I mentioned last time, a podcast junkie. So I said, when you make a documentary, you film probably, depending on how big and long the documentary is going to be, you end up filming somewhere between 20 and maybe 40 interviews, and they can be each anywhere from 15 minutes to 90 minutes long. And you have to cut them all down because you have to weave the story to make it something people will listen to, and all those people's thoughts will go together. And as someone who loves podcasts, it's like, man, that's a lot of meat you leave on the floor, like on the cutting room floor. So I said, maybe if people are into it, not everybody's going to say yes. I'd love to interview them about about Botan Center, being in the band, promoting there, booking there, attending on camera, but also sit down and just chat about our history. And, you know, life got busy since I had the first podcast interview with Keith. Where I'm at right now is I filmed with 2 other people after that, and my basement flooded, partially. So I haven't been able to give my free time to transcoding any old or digitizing old tapes or going out and doing extra interviews. I've got to spend that time either with the other events I have going on, my family, or fixing the basement. But it's not going to take as much work as I initially thought. So I'm hoping within a month I can get back to contacting people to do it. I've talked about this a bit with other people, not in podcasts, but like maybe Keith, when I talked with him on the last, it's called the Loudest Room in Iowa. So people want to go check it out, loudestroominiowa.com. So one band that was really kind of a landmark of the Botan Center era was In Loving Memory, who was a screamo band. And then they broke up sometime around 2001, 2002. And I think 2 bands split off of that. One was called Too Pure to Die and Dispensing of False Halos. Well, they reformed and did a reunion show at the Botanigal Gardens about 3 years ago. And they're one of the ones I contacted. And pretty much every member of the band is amped. And they shared some footage with me. So after I get this basement taken care of, I'm going to go right back to them. And hopefully they'll be the next people I interview. And they're one of the bands that Reform's still going. And they go all over the place and play awesome shows. When I contacted them, I watched a whole show in Pittsburgh or Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. That's, if you've been to a screamo show, they're kind of like church in a way, where like,
hallelujah.
No. What I'm saying is like you are just in it. Like there's, I guess church, there's a separation. There's like an altar, but some you're like right next to them. You're performing. You're kind of bumping up against them like an old school hardcore show, and it is. I think it's something that'll convert you real quick to being. Maybe screamo isn't your thing, but like the vibe, you know, you're like, I understand why people are all about this.
Like, how do you find these people? Do you like know them, or do you like go online, or what's the process?
Well, when you're making a documentary, you only know so many people. Like if you have an interest in a topic, and you're like, okay, I can contact these few people that I know. And then they're like, well, you should really talk to these other people. So there's dozens of people that have, well, not dozens, this many. I'd say probably 20 people that I've learned about that I maybe knew of back in the day, but never really had a relationship with because they didn't live in Des Moines or my band didn't play with them or something like that. And they were big at the Botan, and they're like, you should really talk with this person. Like a real big promoter at the Botan was this guy named Scotty Robati. That's his nickname. And I never met him. I knew of him on message boards. I think I stood next to him at one show at a different place called the Fallout Shelter, but we never really crossed paths. And I actually messaged him right before my basement flooded to be like, hey, and he seemed to be down, or he said he was in. So yeah, that's the type of thing where it's really cool. Now, when you make a documentary, there's all these like ethical quandaries about the people you interview, like the relationship you build. But there's so many people who I've contacted where I was like, why did we not meet back then? Why did we not cross paths? We would have been friends, this, that, or the other. It's like, you can only have so many experiences in your life at one time, unless you're living full time, playing music every day, like playing out every day. So it's really kind of fun to reconnect with people that we were ships in the night. There's a guy who runs a record label out of Perry, and he's been running it for about 17,
Perry,
18.
Iowa?
Perry, Iowa,
Oh,
yeah.
Just want to be sure.
Record label's called Loudest Cat Records. You should have him on the podcast. Great guy.
Maybe. Hit him up.
His name's Servo. And we filmed together, and we were going through all these tubs of old tapes he has and flyers he had. And it's like, I was at that show. Oh, I was at that show too. And we're both tall guys. I think he's just like an inch taller than me. And I was like, I have like a vague memory of maybe a curly-haired guy standing in the room, you know, that type of thing. But it's, again, ships in the night. We could have been really good friends. There's no reason we can't reconnect now. So, yep. if Serbo watches this, we will get back together and do the interview. We've only filmed the going through tubs, that's another thing. When you've got to do so many recordings of interviews plus coverage footage. In this case, there'll be a lot of concerts and archival stuff, maybe current day concerts, rehearsals. So it'll be a lot of stuff. We'll see how long it goes. At first, when I was pitching it for work, I was like, okay, 8 minutes. That's what I get. And I thought, well, it doesn't fit. Maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Who knows? There's a movie that I want people to check out. It's called Secret Apartment or Secret Mall Apartment. It's on Netflix. It's about these people in Providence who there was a mall that was being built, and they're like these artists who went to RISD, the Rhode Island School of Design, and they hated the mall because they had this squat in this old warehouse that got shut down by the city where they had like really cool events. And somehow they discovered there was a part of the mall that didn't have, it was like a vacant spot. It's like, what's going on in this spot right here? There's no store, there's no offices. And they discovered it's just a giant open room. Mm-hmm. And then they, for years, had a secret apartment in the mall. And it kind of has like the same energy as the Botan or Loudest Room, where it's like, this is something from a long time, 20 years ago, that it's like people need to know about it before it just fades into myth or worse.
Something you were saying, like, why wouldn't, like, when you were mentioning, like, when you were interviewing, and I have a similar relationship where, like, you know, saying, why didn't we ever connect before? Why, you know, like, and like, you know, for like just an example being like, Ken, I don't know if you know the band Ken Said. They're local here in Des Moines, but they're like I don't know. I'm not going to go into details. You go to check out the interview if you really want to know. But
I will. You should too.
But basically, I know I met like I met 10 at the moment. It was four guys. I met Tyler Ferris, Luke Oakland, and then Ronan Norton, and I've become friends with at least 3 out of the 4 of them, and like. You know, with me and Luke, I was like, I don't want to say we're friends because I don't want to get ahead of myself, but like,
no, I get it, yeah.
But like, you know, we at least met. I at least feel like, why haven't we talked before? Because they're also for the 48-hour project, and like, you know, they went to Central Campus. We're basically in the same path.
Just there's an energy there,
but
right?
like, we were basically on the same path. Like, they graduated like right when I was a freshman, and it was like. So like, why didn't we? You know, before I would not. It was funny because like, if I didn't interview him before, it's like. We probably would not have been at least known each other at all. Maybe we would have said hi, but like that's it. You know, like I barely would have. I only came to see them ironically because I saw them once because of like another band.
If there's one thing I could say about like being in a band that I miss, there's an energy on stage that I think is hard to replicate outside of maybe a theater performance, which is a little different because you got to like remember the lines and stage, you know, choreography and things. But it's unlike anything else, and you make friends instantly when you're in a band. You meet other bands, and you're like, maybe we're not the same style of music. Maybe I don't even like their music, but we got this similar hustle going on, and you see someone putting it out there, putting their art out there, and even if they are people that you never connected with in the first place, you're like, man, I remember that band. I remember you guys. Why weren't we friends back there? We never played a show together. You gonna break it for a second? Oh, there you go.
For anyone actually gives a crap about the show, if you guys saw the first one that came out like a year ago, the second we talked about their album maybe just a couple of months ago, and if you really give a crap, we're in talks. We're in talks, people, about doing like a third one. We're gonna be talking about the rest of their Ken Sid's album. I don't get your hopes up. I have no idea when the hell it's gonna happen, but. You know, subscribe for this one. Come by every Wednesday. You know, I post updates for stuff on Instagram. TikTok is funny clips. This is just a promo for me, but but you know, just come by. And we're back to the show. Do you think like you're more behind the camera, or like what relationship would you have with that?
Yeah, I'm definitely a behind the camera person. I think when I first started to like movies, TV shows. You think, you know, I want to be an actor. That'd be cool. But if anything, I'm more meant for the stage. I'm just too broad, you know, like I'm just a little too big. And when you're in front of a camera, I heard this in the podcast. I can't remember who said it, but it might have been the guy who played Polka Dot Man in the Suicide Squad, the James Gunn version, that actor. he said he did an audition for maybe Batman's The Dark Knight. And it was pretty big, like Joker big. And the director said, okay, do that again. Everything you're doing, just put it in your eyes. You know? It's like just show in your eyes and your mouth and your nose, your jaw. It's like, okay, I don't know if I'm really capable of minimizing myself, but I do have a visual mind and I can sequence shots in my head and on the spot. So, yeah, I love being behind the camera. I love editing. That's really the sweet spot for me. I mean, I will act if we're down and we need one role to fill in, but I wouldn't say I'm confident in that space. But I think it's just like I said with music, where confidence comes from repetition and doing the embarrassing thing and then getting back into it. So I will say, during the pandemic, my second daughter was born, and I just knew I was going to have like 9 months of not the ability to go out and do social stuff. So I did do a one-man short where I'm the only actor in it. Mm-hmm. But I tried to do what I call the modern minimal acting, which is a lot of film like stars now, they don't want to talk because dialogue really kind of exposes how bad of an actor you are. Yeah, so if you're quiet and just like brooding, you can hide a lot, you know, and be like, oh, this is intense. So it's not much dialogue in it. Yeah. So I was willing to give it a shot.
I also noticed, like, kind of with, like, back when we mainly focused on your shorts, like, you made a quarantine one, speaking of COVID, like, how did, that was pretty, at least in, like, everybody was kind of doing that with music, not saying, not, like, disregarding, but, like, it was at least creative in a sense, like, why did you decide not to just, did you need to just kind of pull something out and just kind of hope for the best, or what was that for?
Oh, you know, I think when the pandemic hit mid-March 2020, everyone's home. We were, I don't think we were planning on doing anything, but 48 had a great idea. People are stuck at home. A lot of people were depressed from the situation. And they thought, well, if you're home, why not just make a movie at home? So we thought that was a great idea. It was free, and everyone had to film their own stuff. So it added like a really random bit of fun to it. And they kind of treat it like a normal 48, where it's like, we're going to give you a theme and maybe a prop, maybe dialogue. I can't remember the exact specifics how they differed, but we did it. We brainstormed on Zoom. Everyone went out and filmed their own little clip, sent them to me. People could watch them through the Dropbox drives, Google Drive. So you
weren't like actually on FaceTime. I thought that's kind of how it worked.
No. I mean, we faked one that was a FaceTime thing. Yeah. We made one that was like to the class of 2020. That's maybe my least favorite one from the pandemic, of that stuck at home run. But the rest were very similar, where it's like everyone films their own bit at home. And I tried not to get big lights and big cameras and things going just because so it would match.
While you're out here just filming stuff during the big breakout of 2020, I had no memory of COVID.
Yeah, well, like, I have a problem where I feel like yesterday was 2020. Like the last 6 years have just been
I get that, but
fast.
like I have no memory. I was like, I was technically 13, maybe turning 13 when I came out, and then I was like, the only memory I have of COVID is like, you know, it's just the only memory is like, you know, like back when there was like everybody was inside, nobody was really out, at least choosing to in the moment. Yeah. You know, I was on my bike. I was like maybe I'd say 13. I don't want to say 14, but you know, I was at least in maybe 7th grade. I was riding my bike. I was big on biking back then, and it was like this. Everybody was inside. Nobody was outside. Maybe 3 cars at most. It was like it's an apocalypse almost.
I mean, it was pretty dystopian, right?
Which I did kind of, and funny enough, I focused a poem I had to make for my senior class, my senior English class. So that was kind of a nice little thing, but it was a weird experience, you know. No memory, but that was like maybe one of the 2 memories I have. You know?
Yeah, it's something from work. I have noticed that every story I do at work has a COVID element to it now, where it's like, sometimes you'll film something about like a historic building, like, and we had a fire in this year. Yeah. But now every story is like, and then COVID happened. Yeah. And then they tell you how it affected them. So, yeah, a lot of different experiences. I recently heard someone say, if you could there was like a current meme, maybe TikTok thing that was going around, where it's like, if you had to relive 1 year of your life, which one would you pick? And a lot of people are picking maybe high school or their youth, where they had like no real issues, no responsibilities. And maybe it's psychotic or something, but I think I might pick 2020 because I spent a lot of time we made 6 movies separately, well, 5 separately, 1 in September together, distanced. But I spent a ton of time with my wife and kid, and we had a kid, and it was just I'm an outlier where it was actually a very chill year.
Mhm.
You know, I didn't have any like fears of death. I think the next year I was a little more scared that my daughter might get COVID, and
On the
when
shoot,
you're an infant, that could be, you know,
deadly.
that could be deadly. Or if you're quite old, it could be deadly. But yeah, I'm a definite outlier when it comes to what happened that first year.
What do you think that like with if like let's say because there's always this rumor like oh we have this next big virus that's gonna be the COVID 3.0 or whatever,
Sure.
how do you think, just in your opinion, what do you think would actually happen if like, because I mean I could be completely foolish but I don't think it would be as bad. People
If,
say it's gonna be as bad but it would, I think we already prepared for it. The worst thing scenarios, it's just gonna be a replicate. We're gonna be back inside again.
yeah, I think it's people live through an experience and they always wait for the next version of that. It happens in everything. I think it's probably going to be similar or less so if that were to happen. But I like to look at it as when Michael Jordan was like the GOAT. Everyone's like, who's the next Jordan? When Nirvana happened, and music kind of seemed to change overnight, even though it didn't. People are like, what's going to be the next Nirvana? Who's going to be the next Britney Spears? Who's going to be what's the next Obsession? That type of thing. Next movie that's like Obsession that just absolutely destroys all expectations, comes out of nowhere. So who knows? We probably don't even have the word for whatever the next virus is or that does something like that. But everyone's lived through it, so they're looking for the next version of it, right? It's kind of like when you fall in love and break up, and you're like, who's going to be the next person in my life that's going to be this version? Will I be more in love with them? Oh man, or is that it for me? That type of thing. So, what are we talking about?
Who knows? What do you think you describe yourself, or is it different?
Oh, I think now I would consider the easiest way is to say ska punk. The ska music is like
So
the
punk
easiest
all
way
the
to say
way.
is fast reggae, ska. And but when I was 17, Jimmy Eat World's The Clarity album came out. It's their second album.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's kind of like the glass shattering for me. Like I might have mentioned the last one. The first band that like I was paralyzed by their music was Green Day. And then down the line, fell in love with Real Big Fish. And then Jimmy Eat World's Clarity came out. And I think that's on par to Green Day Dookie, where I was like, I don't know what this is, but I need this type of music in my life all the time. And then when you find something that you love, especially in the 90s before the internet, before the internet is what it is now, you would basically look in the liner notes of a record or a CD and see who they thanked, and then you'd go and look for everything. So, or you'd get a compilation, which was a record label, independent record label, generally put out a disc or a vinyl that had a bunch of other bands that were like it that maybe could play a festival together. So I was looking up all these other acts from the 90s and early 2000s that really kind of were I could see playing with Jimmy Eat World, so I ended up falling in love with like the Wrens and Elliot and Taking Back Sunday and Thursday and the Get Up Kids. So the word emo maybe has a connotation to it, but to me, no. Alkaline Trio, oh my gosh, that's probably my second or third favorite band of all time. I was in a tribute band for Alkaline Trio, which kind of marries the idea of goth, emo, punk, no ska, but what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And even though the bass player was in a landmark ska band before that, Slapstick. So yeah, it's hard when you're into so many things. I was in a jazz band in high school, I was in show choir, but when it comes down to it, I think if I had to pick one style of music, it would probably be ska punk. Apologies to the President of the United States, who I said was my favorite band of all time, but there's just a bottomless well of joy in ska punk music, like Less Than Jake and The Urge and Blue Meanies, who are not a joyous band, but are just like another flavor of ska punk. So that's what I'd say.
What would you say is your like the bigger or better one?
Of one, ska or punk?
Like out of the two that you were actually a
My
part
bands?
of. Yeah.
Okay, so I was in a ska punk band called the Evil Geniuses that asked me to join after we played a show together because their guitar player wanted to become the trombone player since they didn't have one at the time. And I jumped at it because I love ska and I really wanted to be in a ska band. When I was in high school, I had a ska band for like a year. We played one show, maybe two, um, called Pre-Shrunk. Still love that name. And my other band was 8 Miles Out, which my buddy Chris and I started in '99. And went to college. You know, there were times at the where we were like, let's just drop out and move to California and go tour, but we were chicken. You know, that's like, especially at that time, the necessity is you had to just go out there and commit yourself to it. Like in most things, you got, if you're serious about it, if you want to be an actor, you should take the plunge and either go to, you know, a serious acting school or get a degree in acting and get the reps in on stage. If you want to be a filmmaker, you should either go to filmmaking school or find your community and just do it full time. Figure out a way to make it work. It's all about how much time you put into it, I feel like, you know. So, I mean, you're getting a lot of reps as a podcaster, you know, so you're going to have a great basis. You won't even realize it until you're down the line and be like, oh, I already know this, I already know how to do this. It's, you know,
I definitely
easy.
know more than when I began. Those are horrid, but yeah.
So 8 Miles Out, we went on for, I think 5 years. Chris and I went from being a ska punk band who we really connected on Blink-182. Mm-hmm. And then Jimmy Eat World kind of changed it a little bit. And when we switched drummers, our first drummer switch, my buddy Bill, who's still one of my good friends, been in a lot of Tiny Explosions. Chris is still my friend. I don't see him as much. But him and I really like to just jam and like emo indie post-hardcore, post-rock jam, where you just play a song until you figure out naturally where it goes for 40 minutes and have like more of a mood. So that's really what changed it, was Jimmy Eat World, figuring out how I love to play like that, like music, like with my guitar. And over time, college and things got in the way.
Why do you think you just didn't like kind of jump at the point like after college, or like, was it family mainly?
After college, I think we had just played out, and Chris and I were starting to be into different things.
Okay.
And when it came down to it, I think my relationship with my then girlfriend, future wife, was more important. We broke up before we were even together, but I just kind of gotten a little disenchanted at the hustle. I need to say, if Chris is watching this, and I told him recently after starting doing Loudest Room in Iowa, that you need someone who is like the leader and like the front of the ship, the George Washington of the brigade, to be like, we can do it. We're going to do this. I've known so many people who, looking back, were that person in the band. And if you can get 3 of those people in a band, you might have a real shot at it. Mm-hmm. Like being full on crazy person, dedicated hustle. But Chris is the guy who booked 95% of the shows. You know, he's the one who's like, hey, we're going to record next weekend. Mm-hmm. You know, I just came up with music and had ideas on how to be out front. He was the graphic designer for the band. You know, he's the guy who came up with t-shirt ideas. I just kind of thumbs up, thumbs down, or gave notes. So that's the real only reason is I don't think I took it as serious. I mean, in my head, at the time I thought I was, but no, it's not the exact same thing.
Back to part one, like kind of what we were talking about, like you mentioned how you'll go back and listen to your own stuff, and like I do have my own stuff. I usually do cringe at it, but like how does sure. How do you think life has changed? How does life for you change going forward? Like, do you with it being more like high school and college, like I'm assuming that you played at bars mostly.
Are you talking about like how has music
just
changed?
Like how has your life changed going from like basically college life?
Oh yeah, so
you're obviously a family man now.
Yeah, I think you're a little more like hyper focused, or you know how horses like in cities or pulling a carriage, they wear blinders so they don't see everything that's happening.
Sure.
When you're a kid, your interests are kind of in the people in your life. Your friends are everything that you care about. For a lot of teenagers, I'm sure there are some broader view of how long life is and things happen and how there's a long way to go and you've got goals to work towards. I think I had more of immediate gratification as a high schooler and college person. Like I was like, this music, this person in my life, these friends. And now it seems like somewhere around 2006, I realized that if I was going to make a career of it, there were probably stepping stones to make that happen. Mm-hmm. In fact, we wanted to move to California, and I didn't know how to make that happen. So I developed what I called the long con. This is the first time it'll ever been talked about. publicly, but we wanted to move to California, and we were in Chicago, and I was between jobs, and I got a job at Hertz Rental Car. And they said, it's after working for them for 6 months, you can transfer anywhere in the world as long as you still work for Hertz. So my girlfriend, now wife, is like, I'm officially done with Chicago. I want to move. So I put in a transfer for San Francisco, and we moved out there because of Hertz. And I was like, okay, it took 7 months before I could make that happen. At the same time, I was like, I want to work in television, and then I want to work as a reporter. And then it's just kind of stepping stone. But now you got the whole 5-year, 10-year plan thing. It seems ridiculous when you're young, but in reality, it's not a bad idea to like vision board it. Like just take a piece of paper and be like, right now I am 44. In the next 10 years, I'd like to make a feature film. I'd like to, oh goodness, I want to be there for as much as my daughters as I possibly can. You know, I want to go visit these places in the world. I've been toying with for years, talking about music, recording an album of just songs that I write. Like I've collaborated for almost every song and band that I've been in prior to every official band I was in. So it'd be nice to like actually record in a record in a studio, like not the Pat Boberge album, it'd be under a name, but you know, that type of thing. So I think life just, as you get older, you get a little more broad vision, and it's important not to be like, man, this mistake I made when I was 20 really tripped it up, because you'll realize there's so much time behind you, but there's also so much in front of you. So start today to do the thing that will get you where you want to be.
On one of the channels that we mentioned before, you have like 4 channels listed, and one of them, the L.L.L DSM, and that shows like, and you were basically just recording footage. You were kind of just doing like what a videography was doing at like at like concerts, XBK, as we mentioned. Like, was that kind of like another snippet of like your documentary in a sense, or is that just for like a side guy gig kind of thing?
20 years ago, I started editing the 8 Miles Out documentary, and that was my only YouTube channel at the time. It was under a different name, but I would post some clips of my band or my friends' bands, and then I put the whole documentary on there, and I was like, you know what, this shouldn't just be music. So I deleted anything that wasn't music and put it on a different channel. And Live Loud Local Des Moines was just basically an archive. And now occasionally, if I happen to film a concert, I'll put a clip up, not like the whole show, but it's just a bit of an archive of, you know, what I've been to and bands that I liked, or musicians, performances I happened to see that I was like, there's one that was a ukulele band. I think they still perform around Des Moines, Hoses and Britches. And after about 30 minutes of them performing, I was like, I'm just going to catch whatever they play next, because I really am enjoying this. And yeah, that's pretty much all that channel is. Responsibly Wild, which is a bit of my professional archive, like where I either show things that I've done, there's some music on there, backing tracks, music I've done for other projects.
If only you had a guitar, I would have asked you to sing it.
Yeah, well, I don't know, but that'd be... And then a family one where I like to... Yeah, I can't put a camera down, so I always have a camera when I'm on trips. They're not for like necessarily public enjoyment. They're more like we can go back and watch. Remember when we went to visit Grandma and Grandpa or California, and we went to Colorado? That channel is also just kind of like fun, silly things that I've done, because there is a video on there that I went viral for riding a roller coaster, and it has 8 million views. And every once in a while, I'll pop a new roller coaster video up on there. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff on there that people are like, why did he post this? It's like, well, it's not for you.
It's basically just a video diary in a sense.
A little bit, yeah. Like, I don't think there might be 1 or 2 videos where I'm like kind of, you know.
Do you find it weird? Do you find it weird that there's like 20K followers?
That's entirely because of the roller coaster videos. And it is, I don't know how many of them ever come back like returning viewers. It is weird. It's nice because it allowed YouTube monetization to put nearly 30 grand in my pocket from the 8 million views.
30 grand?
Well, it's YouTube ads, you know? It's like the ads on those videos,
Jesus.
You get a cut. It's been 8 million views. It's really, yeah. I think when they're all together, all the videos on the channel, it's over 10 million views. And so, yeah, what can I say? Go viral, make a little money off of it. I mean, I know I have friends who have gone viral and it becomes their whole life. I don't really want to do that. I don't want to be the roller coaster guy.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, I could get...
If one of our short films went viral,
I mean, they kind of
I would love to
Some
be
of
the
them
short
have,
film guy.
Some of them have. They've gotten over at least 1,000 views.
Yeah, yeah.
Which
But
that
it's not 8 million views, right?
No, yeah. I know when I hit my first one, it was like my first. I did a PSA for maybe in my ninth grade year, and like it's just it's so weird because I don't talk to the dude anymore. But like it was like so cool to see it blow up. I got at least a good 7, maybe 8 comments on it. And it was like a maybe 1.4 thousand. It was like so cool. It was a smoking PSA, and
it's a super like dopamine hit. You know, it's like I can't believe it.
And then like after that, it just never went back.
Yeah.
It was like that one video.
Yeah. Random bits of the internet and algorithms, right?
Let's say I'm your 10-year-old self, because that's when you were kind of when you started filmmaking and like, you know, kind of at least on this journey with music and whatnot, like
cameras and music, right?
Yeah. Just what do you think that conversation would be if you were like, let's say 30 minutes, an hour, you know, when you were just talking?
I would tell myself to actually do drum lessons. Like this year, my plan for my 44th birthday is to get officially drum lessons because I've been talking about it since I was 17. I own a drum set and I can put out some bar beats, but I would love to fill in for friends' bands and be like, yeah, I'll drum. Because, you know, it's always been my dream to, you know, hold down a really steady beat and do some inventive drumming. Like my friend Bill, who is the best drummer I've ever performed with or recorded with, any of that, wrote music with. It's just so cool. You know, so that'd be like the first thing. I think any type of musical lesson, I'd be like, just do it. You know, you could easily find yourself doom scrolling of the 1990s was being on like AOL Instant Messenger chatting with your friends. You know, there's other things you can be doing with your time to be more productive. I think I might even tell myself to, you know, look into filmmaking because I don't think I fully realized that not only you don't have to be Steven Spielberg. Nobody starts at that point.
No,
you know, they
not
all
even him.
get up. Yeah, nobody, zero. Yeah. I mean, unless you're, you know, touched by Zeus, I don't know how you magically get the gifts and the people in front of you to do those type of things. So I think I'd just be like, take lessons, start looking into storytelling, look at colleges. Because when it came to college, I just kind of went where my friends went so I wouldn't break up my band. But, you know, you don't have to stay local. You know, you can go anywhere. And at the time, my parents would have supported me to do that. So yeah. I just was lazy and wanted my band to make it, right?
Yeah.
Even though I didn't put enough effort into that.
Yeah. For like the people who don't know, right after this episode is the 48-hour we filmed it. That will be hosted at the Fleur Theater on August 13th, and it was July July 28th was when you posted your new trailer for that upcoming short. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like Tiny Explosions made Wag the Cat. Could we talk about that like before we wrap up? Like what exactly? Why is this so political?
So the character you were required to include was a character, George or Georgette Washburn, an elected politician. Now, it's up to the teams how they want to do that. They could have it briefly mentioned. They could just use the character's name. They could make the whole story about the character's job. But for that Wag the Cat, just during the brainstorm, it just happened to be that we used that character and their job or their role as an elected official for the idea that we all kind of settled on. The one we just made, Jelly Jar Man, we didn't use their role. They're supposed to be an architect. Mm-hmm. We don't even really mention he's an architect. You hear the character's name, you see the character, but being an architect has nothing to do with the story. So George Washburn is, in that film, stepping in for his dead sister to take over her spot in the campaign. And it's a comedy. It's far out there. It's a couple. If anyone's wondering, like comps, or similar films, it would stack nicely on the shelf with like In the Loop, or The Campaign, which is a Will Ferrell movie, or I was just thinking this the other day, another film that it would work well with. But yeah, it's absurd. It's a dark comedy.
Is it just like a regular short film? Or do you hope for anything special with this one?
I don't know. So you were talking about our films and views on Tiny Explosions YouTube channel. Our number one viewed film is a Christmas bizarre comedy called Elf Off the Shelf.
Yeah, I saw that.
I think over 4,000, maybe 5,000 views. And every year it bumps up about 1,000 around Christmas. I don't think this is going to happen for Wag the Cat. It does. There's a movie called Wag the Dog, which is a political comedy, but it's a little more sunshiny than ours. So I don't know. It's possible that SEO finds Wag the Cat and puts it along Wag the Dog. But I think the very first line in the film would be a spoiler to mention. But it might be a turnoff for some people immediately.
Yeah.
But we'll see. YouTube analytics will tell me right away how many people watch the first 5 seconds and then say, no, thank you.
Like last Wednesday, for we'll be talking about we did just released our part 1 to this interview, and I was wondering what were your thoughts about it besides maybe this one hiccup with the video apparently. Just curious what your thoughts were.
I thought it was a good time. Yeah, it's fun to kind of run down what you've done in your life and look back on it. I'm a big fan of DVD commentaries, which really aren't a thing as much anymore.
I mean, like with reviewing the video, or
no. So in the late 90s, 2000s, up until about 2010, people would make a movie, and movie comes out, makes a success or not, and then the director and the stars would like sit and watch it and record a podcast basically while watching it, talking about it. And you just get so many bits and pieces that you didn't realize before. So, we had a long form discussion about tiny explosions in filmmaking, and I love hearing outside perspectives and what people thought. And, obviously puppets, it was a big part of our discussion. And,
I don't know why that came up.
Hey, no, bring it. When we made the movie this weekend, we didn't have a puppet in this current film. Not that we couldn't have, but at the same time, Brian's daughter, her team Woodsmell, made a movie with a puppet, and their 48 from July had a puppet in it. So I think some people are like way anti-puppet, but the people are even slightly into it. Understand the easy, fun joy it is.
Kind of sounds like a religion to say you're anti-puppet.
Yeah, it's like, hey, open yourself up to fun, So, it's fun to just take stock from someone else's thoughts. Like, it would be really funny if you had watched one of the films and be like, I was horribly offended from whatever. Explain yourself. When we were watching the movie we made this weekend, it's called Jelly Jar Man. There was just a point where Stella, who's editing her film, and I'm editing Jelly Jar Man, and I said, I've come to discover that my favorite thing is like making a film that gets so close to people in the Q&A or online being like, what the F was this?
Yeah.
And one time I wrote a screenplay and had it read at a film festival. And the first question was just why? Why did you do that? It's fun to have to answer for your own weird sense of humor.